Marcus had been walking home from his second job at the diner when he saw her. The streetlights cast long shadows across the old steel bridge that connected downtown to the residential district, and there she was, a small figure perched on the wrong side of the safety railing, her legs dangling into the darkness below. His heart hammered against his ribs as he approached slowly, his worn sneakers silent against the concrete sidewalk. The girl couldn't have been more than 16, maybe 17, with long dark hair that whipped around her face in the October wind. She wore a thin jacket that offered little protection against the cold, and her shoulders shook, whether from the chill or from crying. Marcus couldn't tell. "Hey there," he called out softly, stopping about 10 feet away. His voice carried the exhaustion of someone who had worked 14 hours straight, but there was warmth in it too. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" The girl's head turned slightly, acknowledging his presence but not looking at him directly. "Go away," she said, her voice barely audible over the traffic passing below. Marcus didn't move. He thought of his own daughter, Emma, safely asleep in their cramped apartment a few blocks away. Emma was only 8, but she already asked too many questions about why Daddy worked so much, why they ate cereal for dinner sometimes, why Mommy wasn't around anymore. What would Emma do without him? The thought made his chest tight. "Can't do that," Marcus replied, settling himself down on the sidewalk, his back against the bridge's concrete barrier. "See, I'm pretty tired, and this seems like a good place to rest for a minute. Long day at work." "I said go away." The girl's voice cracked. "You don't understand." "Maybe not," Marcus admitted. "But I've got time to listen if you want to help me understand." For several minutes, they sat in silence. Cars rushed by below them, their headlights creating moving patterns of light on the water. Marcus watched the girl's reflection in a puddle nearby, noting how young she looked, how fragile. "What's your name?" he asked eventually. "Sarah," she whispered. "I'm Marcus." "Nice to meet you, Sarah." He paused, then added, "though I wish it were under better circumstances." Sarah let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Better circumstances? That's funny. What happened today?" Marcus asked gently. "Something must have happened to bring you here." "Everything." The word came out as a broken whisper. "Everything fell apart today. My parents. They told me they're getting divorced. They've been fighting for months, but today they made it official. And they want me to choose." Marcus nodded, understanding more than she knew. His own divorce had been finalized 2 years ago, a messy affair that left him with full custody of Emma and a mountain of debt his ex-wife had accumulated. "That's rough," he said. "Really rough. Divorce is hard on everyone, especially kids caught in the middle." "It's not just that." Sarah's voice grew stronger, fueled by pain. "My boyfriend broke up with me yesterday. Said I was too much drama, too needy. And I failed my chemistry test, which means I probably won't get into the college program I wanted. My whole future is just gone." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing her words. He remembered being 17, when every setback felt like the end of the world, when the future seemed both impossibly important and completely out of reach. "You know," he said carefully, "when I was about your age, I thought I had my whole life figured out too. Was going to be a marine biologist, study dolphins, maybe work for National Geographic." "What happened?" Sarah asked despite herself. "Life," Marcus said simply. "Got my girlfriend pregnant senior year. We got married, dropped out of college, started working whatever jobs we could find. Spent the next 15 years trying to make ends meet. See?" Sarah's voice became desperate again. "Life just crushes you. What's the point?" "The point," Marcus said, standing up slowly, "is what happened next." He moved closer to the railing, but not too close, not wanting to spook her. My daughter Emma was born, and suddenly none of those old dreams mattered anymore. Don't get me wrong though, it was terrifying. I was 18 years old, working at a gas station, living in a studio apartment that barely fit all three of us. Sarah turned to look at him for the first time. In the streetlight, Marcus could see her face was streaked with tears, her eyes red and swollen. But Emma, he continued, his voice soft with memory, Emma was this perfect little person who needed me. Not the me I thought I was supposed to be, but the me I actually was. And you know what? I turned out to be pretty good at being her dad, even when everything else was falling apart. Your wife left you, Sarah observed. Marcus nodded. She did. About 2 years ago. Said she felt trapped, like she'd missed out on her real life. It hurt her God, it hurt her, but by then I knew something I didn't know at 18. What? That life isn't a straight line from point A to point B. It's messy and unpredictable and full of detours you never saw coming. But those detours, sometimes they take you somewhere better than where you thought you were going. Sarah was silent, but she seemed to be listening. I work 2 jobs now, Marcus continued. Maintenance at an office building during the day, waiting tables at night. It's not glamorous, and some weeks I barely make rent. But Emma and we're a team. She helps me with the laundry, I help her with homework. We have movie nights every Friday with popcorn and hot chocolate. She tells me about her friends at school, and I tell her stories about the interesting people I meet at work. That sounds lonely, Sarah said quietly. Sometimes it is, Marcus admitted. But it's also full. Full in ways I never expected. He paused. What about you, Sarah? What fills up your life? Sarah was quiet for so long that Marcus began to worry she wouldn't answer. Finally, she spoke. I volunteer at the animal shelter on weekends. There's this dog there, Buddy, who's been there for 6 months. He's got 3 legs and 1 ear, and everyone thinks he's too damaged to adopt. But he's the sweetest dog I've ever met. Sounds like he's lucky to have you. I won't be able to keep volunteering if I have to choose which parent to live with. Mum's moving across town, and Dad might move to another state entirely. Marcus felt a surge of anger at parents who would force their child to make such an impossible choice, but he kept his voice calm. Have you told them how you feel about that? They're too busy hating each other to care what I think. Maybe. Or maybe they're so caught up in their own pain that they can't see yours. Marcus moved a little closer to the railing. But here's the thing, Sarah. You're almost an adult. In a year or 2, you'll have choices they can't make for you. A year or 2 feels like forever. I know it does. When Emma was 3, she broke her arm falling off her bike. Had to wear a cast for 6 weeks. To her, 6 weeks might as well have been 6 years. She cried every day, asking when it would come off. But you know what? 6 weeks passed. The cast came off. She learned to ride her bike again, more carefully this time. Sarah wiped her nose with her sleeve. What if things don't get better? What if this is just how life is? Then you find ways to make it better. You volunteer with animals who need you. You find friends who appreciate you for who you are, not some perfect version of yourself. You discover that chemistry tests don't actually determine your worth as a human being. Easy for you to say. Is it? Marcus asked. 3 months ago, I almost lost our apartment. The rent went up, and I couldn't make the difference. I was working 16-hour days and still coming up short. Emma asked me why I was so sad all the time. What did you do? I swallowed my pride and asked for help. Talked to Emma's teacher, who connected me with some community resources. Applied for assistance with utilities. Picked up a 3rd job delivering food on weekends. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pretty, but we made it work. Marcus took another step closer. The point is, Sarah, I had a choice. I could give up, or I could fight for the life Emma and I were building together. Even when it seemed impossible, even when I was exhausted and scared and felt like I was failing at everything. But I don't have a little girl counting on me. No, Marcus agreed. But you have Buddy at the animal shelter. You have other dogs and cats who'll come through those doors, scared and alone, who'll need someone who understands what it's like to feel unwanted. Sarah's shoulders began to shake again, but this time Marcus thought it might be more about releasing tension than building towards something dangerous. I'm so tired, she whispered. I know you are. Being 17 is exhausting. Everything feels so intense, so permanent. What if my parents hate me for not choosing? Then that's their problem, not yours. Parents are supposed to love their children unconditionally, not make them jump through hoops to earn that love. Marcus was close enough now that he could reach out and touch Sarah's arm if needed. Can I tell you something Emma said to me last week? Sarah nodded. She said, Daddy, I'm glad Mommy left, because now I get you all to myself. At first, I felt terrible that my daughter was happy about her parents' divorce. But then I realized she was telling me something important. She was saying that our life, the one we've built together, has value. Even though it's not the life anyone planned, even though it's hard sometimes, it's still good. I don't know how to keep going, Sarah said. One day at a time. 1 hour at a time if you need to. And some days, 1 minute at a time. Marcus extended his hand toward her. Come on, Sarah. Let's get you off this bridge. We can call your parents, or we can call someone else if you prefer. But let's get you somewhere warm and safe where you can figure out your next step. For a long moment, Sarah stared at his outstretched hand. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. Marcus's grip was steady and warm, calloused from years of manual labor but gentle. The we go, he said softly, helping her climb back over the railing onto the sidewalk. That's the hardest part. Once Sarah was safely on solid ground, she began to cry in earnest to deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her chest. Marcus didn't try to stop her or tell her everything would be okay. He just stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, letting her cry. When the tears finally subsided, Sarah looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. What now? Now we call someone. Parent, friend, relative. Someone who can come get you. What if they're angry? They might be. But anger is better than loss, Sarah. Trust me on that. They walked together toward the nearest phone booth, their footsteps echoing on the empty street. As they walked, Marcus found himself thinking about the randomness of the moment, how he'd happened to take this route home tonight instead of his usual one, how he'd looked up at just the right moment to see Sarah on the bridge. Marcus? Sarah's voice was small. Thank you. He nodded, understanding that sometimes the most important conversations happen between strangers, in the space between one life and the next, when everything hangs in the balance and a simple human connection can tip the scales toward hope. Later, after Sarah's aunt had come to pick her up, after the police had taken their statements and everyone had gone home, Marcus walked the final few blocks to his apartment. Emma was still asleep, her small form curled under a blanket decorated with cartoon dolphins, a remnant from his old marine biology dreams. He kissed her forehead gently and whispered, I love you, kiddo. In the morning, he would tell Emma about meeting Sarah, about how sometimes helping someone else helps you remember what's important in your own life. But tonight, he simply sat in his chair by her bed, grateful for the detours that had brought him exactly where he needed to be.